Watching it, how's the framing? Is it good? Can you see like the whole? Am I like centered? Okay.
I can tell you're stressed.
Oh, you came back big time then, didn't you? Yeah.
Hello, testing, testing. Hello.
It's gonna be delayed, so.
I got to see her I thought I had seen actually a couple of
That's good. Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's nice because they don't like stick in your ear.
Testing, testing. Hello.
It's gonna like October will get busy. Have we had the place full of charter.
Going all right? Yeah. Running a live stream.
So what's it showing?
Oh, that's not very entertaining.
The official sort of thing starts at
You were in the shadow for this. Mr. Rizal. Yeah, I'm gonna turn it up just because if people are walking around, like you need to be kind of close to it. Yeah, if you would remind
Try and
people.
stay close to the mic.
Yeah, we'll turn it up a little bit though.
All right. Do you have anything that will read that will show like this is good, or do you need me to speak right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Testing, 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 testing the levels, testing, testing.
Yeah, that sounds good.
everyone please finish finding your seats. If you do not have a seat or a place to stand, this is your moment to find one. welcome everyone. Welcome. So happy to have you here. As you can see, with a crowd this large, it is very hard to wrangle everyone, but we are so thrilled that this room is as full as it is. So I'm going to start off by saying hello. My name is Caleb. I am Mary's son-in-law, and I am just so happy to be seeing all of you, to be meeting many of you, to be seeing people I haven't seen in many years. So it's truly wonderful to have you here. When we thought about this event, we knew that there was going to be a lot of emotion in the room, and Mary wisely knew that there are generally two types of people who join the Schoenberger family. There are those who are also equally emotional, who can jump right in, and then there are those who are the emotionally repressed ones, like myself. So she chose me to try and be that guy who can stand up here and keep things on track. So, what I want to say first of all is that more than anything, we are so grateful not only for having you here, but for everything that you have done over the last 18 months and over the course of Mary's whole life. That this is a truly unusual community, a truly special community, simply because we have had non-stop food deliveries. There have been flowers, there have been cards, there have been endless messages, and it has been so amazing to see all of you bringing so much love into the house, whether you were near or far. I know that many of you have traveled a long way to be here today. Flown, driven, however you got here, we are very grateful that you've made the time to join us, to be here to celebrate Mary, and to be part of this experience. I also just want to thank everyone who has contributed to our technology. Gavin, thank you for helping us. Who is helping us try and get all of the food and the celebrations and all the flowers that have arrived and everything else. So just know that we are deeply grateful. And Liza and Rich and Casey and I are also thankful to have you in our lives.
So much.
I am just the starting act. So if you think that you would like to say something, we have a few speakers who are going to start first. But truly, this is a moment to come up and tell irreverent and hilarious or heartfelt stories about Mary. I know there are many of them in the crowd, so please make sure that if you have something you want to share, that you can do that. As you know, Mary liked to have things done a very specific way, so I'm going to be the guy to pass on the guidelines. So first, there is the handheld mic, and then there is the online mic for those of us who are joining us from far away. So please, as you stand up here, stay close to the mic so that everybody can hear what's going on. Also, please introduce yourself and let us know your relationship with Mary. Just give us a sense of what the history is. And of course, we have no idea how many people want to stand up and speak. So if I start kind of, using the cane from the Oscars to try and hurry things along, please don't be offended. Okay.
Doing it wrong.
Yeah. Mary knows. She'll be here. Okay, so we're going to start with a prayer from Mark Perry, one of Rich's oldest friends. So very happy to have that. And then I'll hand it over to Liza to get us started.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Mark Perry. I happen to be pastor of San Diego New Church. Please don't hold that against me. I also had the privilege of teaching Liza many, many years ago. And Rich was one of the very first people that I got to know when I came to Bernathen. And we struck up a friendship, and that friendship has survived quite a lot of years and a lot of things. And I watched this man walk through his experiences with grace and dignity. I just invite you all, those who care to, please just bow your heads, join with me in prayer. Dear Lord, as we come together just to celebrate the life and beautiful person that was Mary, one of the kindest, sweetest, most lovely people. Lord, we know that she goes from our arms to your arms. That smile, that radiance, that gentle vote and voice of both gratitude and comfort. Lord, as we hold this wonderful human being in our hearts and minds, we know that she is already in your presence, surrounded by all those who have gone on before her. Lord, we count this opportunity to celebrate one with another, to share a hug, a smile, a story, to share what is within us that has caused us to travel the miles, to be here today, to be with those that we love and care about. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity, especially for the many, many hours and efforts of so many to have put this event on, to provide a time and a place for those that loved. Lord, we dearly thank you. Amen. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. O Lord, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Amen.
Man, I didn't cry all day. I gotta go after that. So, someone had said earlier when my family was gathered that, my mom was very much into living her life, acknowledging what things actually were. So when she got diagnosed, she didn't sugarcoat anything. She didn't want anyone to sugarcoat around her. I actually bought this dress and I came in and I said, "Do you like my dress, Mom?" She says, "Yeah, I do." I said, "Well, I think there's going to be a party soon where you might be the honoree." And she goes, "I am going to be the honoree." I said, "Good, I want to make sure that's this." But anyway, I have a better story to encapsulate that. She told me I could tell it, and I wasn't present for when this happened, so I might get a couple details wrong. Sorry, Mom and C, or Dad and C. My mother's bucket list. A bunch of us have a bucket list. One of her bucket list items, she always wanted to arrive at an event in a first responder vehicle with the lights and sirens going. When Santa comes through Bernathen on the fire engine, she goes nuts. When July 4th, a parade and the fire trucks go by, she goes nuts. And she's never been able to do it. So a few months ago, before cancer really got to her brain, but she was still a little loopy on drugs, she started planning this event. We have just executed what she has planned. And she said, "Well, I want to do, the graveyard in the morning, and then I want to have a little break, and then I want to have a big party where anybody who wants to can come." And she goes, "Oh, you know what I want?" "What do you want, Mary?" We have a friend, Detective Steve Fink, who's married to Chrissy Fink, to those who might know them. They're very good friends. I want Detective Fink to come pick me up at a day. He can pick me up at about 11. And I want him to bring me to the party with the lights and the sirens blazing. And my dad and my sister look at each other, and look at my mom, and look at each other, and look at my mom. And my dad says, "Honey, do you mean you want Detective Fink to come get your cremation box and bring it to the party? Because that's a little weird, but we'll do it." And she starts laughing, her signature hysterical laugh, and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm not going to be there." I said, "Well, not exactly." So unfortunately, she did not get her lights and sirens first responder entrance. But that was just the way, she instead of getting upset about it, she thought it was the funniest thing she'd ever done in her life. And as anybody who knows Mary thinks Mary is the funniest person on the earth. So she cracked herself up for days and told the story, despite not remembering what happened 10 minutes ago every other minute. So I just wanted to tell that story because it was funny, and it kind of just reminds me of exactly who my mom is. No holds barred, and not into making stuff up that isn't true. And she eventually, got okay. with leaving. She wanted to leave in the end, but yeah, I just thought that would be a quick little funny anecdote to start the day off. So if anybody would like to come, by all means, I'll pass this on.
All right, we have a crowded room, but do we have any takers? Anyone with an excellent story that they'd like to share?
Say something about Mayor.
Uh-oh.
That's clean. I wrote it down so I didn't get off track here. Well, Mary's clearly made a lasting impression on numerous people, just judging from how many people we have up here. Just for introduction, Mary and I grew up in the hard scrabble streets of Bernathen back in the 1900s. It was in my class, but she went to the other half because they were the groovier people over in that half of school. But after she graduated, we became very good friends, and with my good wife, sounds like the 1600s. So we've known each other a long time and have lots of stories, and just wanted to rattle off some of the impressions she's made on me, and I'm sure you guys share in many of these. I think that the first impression, obviously, for her is going to be her amazing red hair. She just kind of, it's radiant, it's warm smile that comes out of this hair, and it seems to serve as a fair warning to everybody that the contents may be hot. And it's pretty warm in there. She's a very warm person. As I got to know her, I learned she was very generous, kind, and all about love. After I had a chance to drive with her, I realized that she had an ability to carve out a special exception for that kind of behavior. And she took it as a sport. Driving was a sport to Mary, and she was the undisputed referee of the whole thing. I will never forget driving with Mary. She was amazing. I will never forget her sense of humor and her genuine, infectious laugh that we've all heard and fallen in love with. I'm sure all of us have shared that over the years. And I'll never forget her emotional wisdom. She just knew stuff. She was wise, and her intuition, she had lots of that. And she shared it with countless times with all of these folks, or a lot of people in here. She was the village confidant. You could tell anything to Mare. She might tell other people and make it funny, but you could still, she felt like you could tell. So, I'll never forget the word she made. It's a BS word that she made up, and we all agreed on that after lots of research, and that's Lavecia. Who's heard of Lavecia? Nobody, I know. Okay, well, it's Lavecia, and it's the light that we've all seen it off of water onto some solid surface, and it dances around, and it's pretty cool. We love that, and that's Lavecia. And I thought, well, how fitting for that, for Mary to come up with that BS word, because she's the reflection of light and heat and goodness from people onto other people. And I just will never forget that word. It's always going to be linked to her, and we're going to get Merriam-Webster to acknowledge that she made this word up. She did reflect that light, and people just wanted to be around her for that reason. You just felt better when Mare was at the party. And I will never forget the courage she showed during her bout with cancer, and how she spoke candidly about the eventuality of her death. And she faced it head on, with dignity, with candor. One of the last exchanges I had with her via text, she was asking about how she was how she can help my wife, or Mel, she referred to, her best friend, my wife. I'm proud of that. But she was asking about her welfare, and without really regard of what was going on with her. So I thought that was remarkable, and we are going to miss that kind of compassion in our lives with her loss. Simply put, I loved Mary. I will carry impressions of her my whole life. I don't know where she is now, but I know it's a little brighter, a little warmer, and the left-hand lane is going twice the speed limit. Thank you for coming today.
The floor is open. Perfect. Take your time.
Hello. My name is Donette Cooper Glenn, and Rich and Mary bought their parents' home right down the street from us when our kids were little. So that pocket of life that we shared was raising our little kids. I could say so many memories about that, but it was a special pocket that was stuffed to the brim, and they opened their home and their hearts to us, and vice versa. But I did come to tell a funny story about her. When I was great with child, with our 5th baby, Mary says, Don, there's a crafts fair over at the mall. Do you want to come look at the jewelry with me? So I go, okay. And she's all dressed to the nines like she always was, and made up and fancy schmancy, and I came with my dowdy old about to give a baby birth self. We go in the mall, and there's all this neat handmade jewelry, and she's Googling and Googling. Do you remember she made jewelry for a long time? Her junk jewelry, she got stuff together and put it all on a base. Do you remember that? Anybody? I looked for my thing today, but I couldn't find it. Anyway, we get to the mall, and there's the saleswoman draping the gems and all the finery in front of Mary, and she's touching and oohing and seeing how wonderful it all was. And then the lady turns over and looks at me like this. And then she looks back at Mary and says, do you think your mother would like to look at some of these things? And Mary grabs my arm and filled the mall with her laughing. So we know that laugh, and so does everybody who was at Willow Grove Mall that morning. So we'll miss her. We'll miss her, and we love her. Thank you.
I knew this was going to happen. As soon as the good stories start, there's always more good stories to follow.
Hello, I'm Ralph Hill, and I may get weepy up here, it's possible. Anyway, I'm going to go back 55 years. I'm going to go back 55 years. I was down from Bernathen, from Carndale, just starting junior year, didn't know anybody. I got to know Mary because everybody knows Mary. It's what you do. Anyway, I remember being at the firehouse and getting a phone call at the firehouse. It just said, would anybody like to go to a movie? Now, my wife has a differing opinion of what was said, but that's what I remember anyway. And I said, sure, why not? Well, I think Susanna was told that he was going to get set up with a guy, which was me. And of course, I'm really thick, okay? So I go, sure, I'll go to the movie. I had no clue that didn't come to my mind that we was a blind date. So we went to the movie. I remember it being Old Yeller, I believe, wasn't it? Something like that. And I remember her dog had just died. Susanna's dog had just died, and she was all weepy at the movie theater. And I'm wondering, I don't know about this. But anyway, she set us up on our first date 55 years ago, and we've been married for 49 years. So thank you, Mary.
Yeah, this way. Right over here.
I used to be able to jump up. No, there's no rebuttal. But she did tell me, I'm going to find you a blind date. I didn't know that she was just going to call the firehouse. Some guy. Anyway, we've had a good marriage. So I just wanted to say that my very first memory of Mary was in kindergarten, and it stuck from there. So I used to have a blanket. Miss Eleanor would tell stories, and so we spread out our blankets. And when I was a kindergarten teacher, I did the same thing. But my blanket split open, and you could, go inside. And so Mary would forget her blanket every day, and we would go inside together. But we got in a lot of trouble for that. But that was my very first memory of my best friend. So she was awesome. I miss her so much. But I had a good dream. I've had 2 really good dreams about Mary. And so she was doing art in the last one. And that was wonderful. She looked really happy. And her hair was really long again and red again. And, Anyway, I just wanted to tell you my very first memory of Mary. And that it was a blind date. He walked in front of me, he didn't pay for me. I went,
My name is Wyatt Cole, and I really got to know, I called her Mamie. That was my nickname for her. I called her Mamie. And I really got to know her when I stayed with her for the medieval camp at Bernathen when I was a kid. And Mamie she spoiled me. She spoiled me so much, and she loved me so much. And after she got cancer, I was in contact with her on Facebook, and we would message a lot, and I would check on her, see how she was doing. But she really didn't talk about herself that much. She would just always ask me how I was doing and how I was. And she was just really compassionate, and she just had a magic about her. And I miss Mamie, and I love Mamie.
Any other stories to share?
Yeah.
My name's Kevin McCollum. I'm Rich's younger brother. A couple of things I would really like to share about Mary. The last time we got to see each other, I'm going to have a tough time getting this out. Our last exchange was Mary telling me that I've always been really special to her, which I was a little bit shocked to hear because I haven't always been special. But she said she loved me, and I could just feel her unconditional love. And the only thing I could say to her was, Mary, you loved me and treated me special even when I didn't deserve it, and that's what makes you amazing. And I told her I loved her, and I'll never forget that moment as long as I live. The other thing I think that makes Mary special, besides her hair, everybody knows, and her laugh that everybody knows, and they are certainly special, is that Mary had a great sense of humor, and she wanted to let everybody know how she felt. Everybody knows that, and there are countless drivers across the United States with certain political persuasions on their cars that Mary gave the finger to. And that would be, to me, the other thing she's famous for. Mary's middle finger.
Bringing tissue to anticipation.
Hello. I'm Janice, but Mary would say that my name is Jonas because I didn't pronounce my own name right, of course. Or that's how I pronounced it in her ears. A lot of you in here are best friends with Mary, and you're so lucky. A lot of us in here are lucky to be best friends with Casey. Sorry. It's really weird that this is like happening. I did not know that this part was happening, so I don't really have anything specific, but yeah, Mary was hilarious. Like, she's not like anybody else's moms, all due respect to everybody else's moms, but she's the cool mom. Casey and Mary came to my house every year for Passover for a few years, and like somehow we ended up like rapping in Yiddish with Mary. I don't remember what we said, it's on video somewhere, but it was like, all right. One of my clearest memories of her is also out of context, just her screaming Yahtzee when we were playing Yahtzee. You know, I went to their house for Easter egg hunts and watched Star Wars for the first time with Rich. I don't know where Rich is. And Casey, it wasn't weird. When somebody mentioned that she made jewelry, like I leaned over to my friend Julie and said, yeah, but she made jewelry out of her children's, is it okay to say, your kidney stones? Sorry, that's so personal. But she saved them and made them into jewelry, and like, that's so weird and so Mary. I'm sorry, Liza. We all know it. And she was just so special, and I think the last time we texted was on my birthday, which she didn't know, that's when we were texting, but like, I just, like everyone else, appreciate how much she was still there for other people when she was going through so much, and she passed on a lot of her wonderful qualities to her beautiful daughters and her son-in-law. I don't know if you could do that. And I just loved her.
Yes.
I didn't know Mary. I did know Mary. She came to my house every day. Every day. After school, grade school, she grew up at our house. She and Kathy and Mary. And what I remember is that my brother, Les, who was my older brother, he's 80 now, he had a movie camera. You know, there's new 8mm, 16mm, something like that. And he would, because he was experimenting with his camera, he had Mary, Kathy, and Shirley would do things where he'd take a picture and then stop, and they would jump up and he'd take a picture on this movie camera. So all I remember of that is you see Mary, Shirley, and Kathy hanging in the air in the movie. I thought it was really sweet. And she and Shirley were just so hard on my poor stepmother, but her laugh was just insane. So loved her, and I'm so sorry she's gone, and heaven's a better place. So.
Shortcut. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren. I was at Alden, following up on my stepsister Janet and Judy over there. So, like Janet said, Mary was at the Alden Roadhouse a lot, along with a lot of other of you out here. I moved away 50 years ago to Cleveland, and one of the funny memories that I have of her, and in this world where we're a little, we're not very self-expressed, but Mary was such the opposite. And I always admired her for that. But she came out to Cleveland to visit Shirley and I, and we went out to a concert, and there was an open dance floor, but nobody was dancing. And all of a sudden, I'm like, where's Mary? As she's in the middle of the dance floor, just getting her groove on. And I just remember first I was just like, oh my gosh. But then I was really jealous of her. I'm like, how can somebody be so self-expressed? And I've always admired that about Mary, and she didn't seem to be self-conscious. And I've taken that away in my life, people have lasting impressions on me for different things. And another very personal thing, if I can share it, was Mary knew things about some people that even you didn't know about yourself. And she lived on Alden Road next to the Schmuckers. And many of you know I was adopted. And so Mary knew my birth mother before I did. And it's really kind of strange, but maybe that's something that happens in a small town. But it was something that her and I shared, and she knew my birth mother. And last time I saw her was for my high school reunion last year. But she knew my birth mother. She was the only one really that knew my birth mother, and we had that in common, and she was excited to talk to me about her. My mother had passed away last year, so anyway, Mary was so thoughtful, and she was just wanting to share my mother Beverly with me. That was our private little thing that we had. I'll never forget that. And actually, she told Shirley who my birth mother was before I knew. So Shirley came and said, I know who your real mother is. I knew I was going to find out anyway, but it's just found that, Mary and I had that little special bond. And, I didn't see her often, but she was a very, very special person, and her qualities are just second to none. Thank you.
Neil.
So hi everyone, I'm Neil, one of Casey's dear friends. Mary was the big sister and mom I never had. I loved her to death. And as we all know, Mary was incredibly generous. She loved to crack herself up, and I will miss very much her every day. I've also missed her gift-giving ability. The year I graduated med school, I went down to visit Casey and Caleb at their parents' house and in Florida, part of the generosity. That was just every day for Mary and Rich. And when I got to the house on Crumbacker Lane, Mary had this gift for me. And you know, Mary and Rich have traveled the world at different art shows and art fairs. And I open up this gift for my med school graduation. And in it is this metal, clearly piece of medical equipment that I've never seen before. And you know, Mary is laughing her characteristic laugh. Just wild, as you know Mary can be. And I'm like, Mary, this is great, but what the hell is it? And she's like, Neil, I can't believe you don't recognize this. It's an antique anal probe. and we giggled, and I mean, God, I loved Mary. Because that was just her humor, as you guys all know. And so we giggled, and I put the antique anal probe in my suitcase. And we had the rest of our trip down in Florida, and we had such a good time on the day that I was leaving, that I was taking a plane home. We were late to the airport. And so I am like a nervous flyer, as everybody, as my friends know. And so I'm like sweating and like heavy breathing, trying to get through the TSA line. And so like, I'm like, have like 10 minutes to board, and I'm sweating, and my mouth is drier than it is now. And I put my suitcase on, and I see it go in and out, and in and out of the TSA, the screener. And the guy comes over, and you know, he's very stern, very serious, and he's like, "Sir, can you tell me what's in your suitcase?" Because it's metal, of course. And I had forgotten what was in my suitcase, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I left my water bottle in there." And he was like, "Sir, this is not a water bottle." And then it dawns on me what I'm gonna have to do in the airport, which is pull out, I think, the single funniest gift that Mary has ever given me. And so I'm in the middle of the airport, and I pull it out, and I'm like, you know what? It's an antique anal probe. And I'll never forget what the TSA agent said. "Sir, next time you bring this with you, you should probably check your luggage." And I have to say, Mary just loves that story so much.
That's going to be tough to follow. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, everyone. Oh, yeah. All right. I'm Ian McCollum, Kevin McCollum's son, Rich's nephew, Mary's nephew. So I went to ANC, the high school, and my freshman year, my mom and dad were driving me back and forth an hour from New Hope all the time. So one of the arrangements we had was I was going to stay with Mary and Rich. You know, from time to time, I had play practice, I had musical practice, I had all the practices in the world. And, you know, it's not very specific of a story, but she would drive me and meet my mom halfway to pick me up after everything was done. And I remember one time she was passing me the aux cord, essentially. And at the time, I was into very edgy rock music. So I put on one of my songs, and I'm like, what do you think of this? And it's this song with some screaming and, the worst guitar riff you've ever heard. And I know that she was holding in the biggest, what the F was that? But she turns to me and she goes, are you sure you want to be listening to that? So, needless to say, that came off of my playlist. Another short story I have is, I'm sure some of you know Casey and Caleb's pets. One of them, Kaz the cat, the orange cat. Mary was the one who introduced me to Kaz. And I just, for some reason, remember, just the way she loved this cat more than life itself. And I just remember seeing him. He was really tiny at the time, too. He's now big and fluffy. But I just remember seeing her go, there's my little guy! Scooping him up, and he's just like, who is this woman getting in my space? Anyway, she just had that love of life and energy, and I just also remember Goose at one point telling me to, watch out for her and to see if she ever wants to get another dog after Tula, because she told me she is the worst pet parent in the entire world. And then it all came down on Rich in the end. And Rich is always on the road. So, there you have that. Anyway, love you, Mary.
Hello. Well, what can you say? The girl was larger than life and a friend to all. And our lives wove in and out since I was 16 and she was 14. In and out, we wove our lives. And you gave me another story. Okay? The girl hated cats. We had a cat named Kitty Kitty. Mary called our cat Shitty Shitty. Thanks, Mary. She didn't love our cat. That was the first cat she ever loved, okay? I can vouch for that. I have another tiny little story that I might get in trouble for. Mary, I'm telling on us. Okay. When she was pregnant with Casey, I was pregnant with Kelsey. They were born 2 weeks apart, and we were out to here. Mare says, let's go to Bloomingdale's. There's some sale going on. I'm like, okay, let's go. So we're driving around the parking lot. We're passing the handicap place. They had a handicap sticker on their car. And we pass, and we go around, and we're looking where to park. And all of a sudden, we looked at each other. It's like, should we do it? I don't know. Should we do it? I'm like, we are very handicapped. Let's do it. So in we park, and she goes, don't ever, ever, ever tell Rich that we did this. He'll kill us. Ricky, now you know.
Any other takers?
This is going to be really hard. I'm Kellen Ayers. Darcy is my mom. They were best friends. Mary and Rich have always been such a huge support for my family growing up, and I have a lot of really great memories of her. I just wanted to share one. My wife and I recently welcomed our first son into the world 4 months ago, and as part of the baby shower, we were asking for books. And so usually people give you like corduroy or like a classic book. And we opened a book from her. It was called Stories to Tell the Littlest Ones, and it looks like it's 200 years old.
It might be.
It was just about. We looked it up. It was from 1916. She had gone through and hearted her favorite stories that she used to tell her kids when they were young. And so we texted back and forth about how strange some of the stories were in there, and about how she used to read it in creepy voices to her kids. But the most special part is that it's my son's favorite book. And so every time we read it to him, he starts smiling. And it reminds me of Mary. I love you, Mary.
Hello, my name is Kane Lermit. I am son-in-law to Kurt and Cammie. Cammie, of course, one of Mary's very good friends. One of the things that is been significant in my life is my own journey with cancer. And during that journey, I got to become very close with Liza and regularly communicating with her. But I also had, of course, Mary reach out to me as well. And I wanted to bring her into the room a little bit. This would have been a handful of weeks after my diagnosis, when we really didn't know what the outcome was going to be. And some of the words that she shared with me, and Mary was incredible because of her humor, because of the enthusiasm she had for her life and all those types of things. But she was really good in effed up situations. When life got shitty, she just got funnier and she leaned into it more. And she also had profound wisdom. And for anyone, I'm not going to remember the name of the podcast. I'm sure people can share it. But she did a podcast recently reflecting on her own life and her own experience. And the thing that I took out of that was, she said, and in her conversations with Rich, about how everything that she'd ever wanted in life, she had. And when I read this next comment, you'll realize just how much tragedy showed up over and over in life. And for the person's ultimate reflection to be towards the end of their life, through all of that tragedy, that they had everything that they wanted through that lifetime, is phenomenal. So anyway, this is a couple of weeks after I was diagnosed with my own cancer. Good morning, Kane. Here's to another day full of promise. I've really enjoyed reading your posts and getting to know you in a way I'm sure I never would have. Another one of the beautiful things that happens in situations like this. Your experience brings back so many feelings of having Liza in the life that we had over the last 28 years. Over 100 surgeries and too many hospital stays, finding outdoor space was always a priority for me. I am so glad that you found a park. I have said in the past posts that the beauty and blessings that happen during times like these. I've had a cousin commit suicide, a 3-year-old niece killed in a car accident, a 3-year-old nephew die of liver cancer, and troubles in my own marriage. The hard thing is that people who go through these times sometimes don't believe that good things can come from the bad. But now that people are experiencing this in the community, in a weird way, it's a blessing and it gives life to others. And she ended with, I responded to her and said, maybe I'm crazy, but I keep feeling so effing lucky. And she said, welcome to the Feeling So Fucking Lucky Club.
Couldn't resist, and I want to say that I'm Barbara Karas, also known as Barbie Sinisvet. My parents, Sig and Nadia, were best friends with Herb and Shirley, and I went to school with Mary's brother Lincoln. My sister Nancy went to school with Gray, and my sister Jeanette Sinisvet, who died 32 years ago, went to school with Mary. And 2 years ago, on the date, or around the date when Jeanette died in August, we had a small gathering at her place, and we raised a glass to Jeanette. And Mary said, she raised a glass and she said, I'm raising a glass to Jeanette, 30 years since she ditched us. And I'm feeling like, this is how many days? 24 days since Mary ditched us? You might not know that I was a tenant at Rich and Mary's wonderful apartment upstairs and people who are from Bernathen, when they'd ask where I live, I'd say, I live at Schoenberger's, and they all know right away where I meant. It was very hard explaining to them otherwise. I put a note in the Bernathen Post when I was living in North Carolina, knowing that I was going to be moving back to Pennsylvania, and I was looking for an apartment. And I got an email immediately from Mary saying that they had an apartment that would be available. And she didn't even have to do a background check on me or anything. So I moved up here, and Rich and Mary, and Casey and Caleb and Liza became my new landlords. And it was wonderful, it was glorious. We had fun, we kept out of each other's hair. I slipped on the porch one Thanksgiving morning, going down to get something out of my car, and that was upstairs. And Mary was very worried after that I was going to fall down the stairs. And she and Rich and the girls and Caleb could not have been a better way for me to come home. And I'm very sorry that Mary has gone home now, because she's 11 years younger than I am, and that just shouldn't happen. One more thing I want to share is that, as I mentioned, our parents were very good friends. And when Herb and Shirley were going down, my mom, I don't know, did your dad die first? Okay, or no? Yes. Well, Shirley was left, and Mom, who was quite feisty, she steamed up to Cairnwood Village in her little car, and she reported to me that she told Shirley, Shirley, we simply can't spare you. And I wanted to say about Mary, Mary, we simply can't spare you. Thank you.
Rich used the word weird about Mary's not being here anymore. And I think her vitality was so strong, it just doesn't make sense, you know? And especially if you haven't seen her lately, you know, to watch her preparation to leave, as it were. I had been able to come down several times in June, and that was before she was on hospice. And she was starving. And when she went on hospice, they gave her steroids, which made her appetite return. And I came in July, and I was like, whoa, she looked just great. And I said, ooh, cute outfit. She said, yes, I bought 3 of them. I said, you bought 3 of them? You're shopping? Yeah, you can shop online and blah, blah, blah. And you know, she was just going on. And as it increased in momentum, it was the idea that she was going to make a video that would go viral about doing your own makeup for your viewing. And that tells the whole story.
I'm sorry. This was Gray, everybody. Gray forgot to introduce herself. Gray, Mary's sister. Anyone else?
I want to say, you're doing it wrong.
Mary's truest words. All right, so I think I have the final word here. So my story is actually that my relationship with Mary started very early in a very merry way, which is that I think it was approximately 1 month after Casey and I started dating, and she decided that we needed to go out to breakfast together. And so we went to the diner, and even that felt like that was a lot, right? I'm very New England. I felt like, okay, let's have some boundaries. We're not going to go out with the mother-in-law just by ourselves on the breakfast, right? But she was very clear that this needed to happen, and so we got there, and I thought, she's going to play this cool. She's going to be very, surface level. She won't dig. This is going to be fine. I was reassuring myself walking in there. Of course, right away into the questions, right? How do you feel about my daughter? Do you feel like you're in love with her? Do you feel like you're just going to be together forever? I'm trying to think, how do I not ruin my relationship right now while trying to give honest answers? I don't even know what to do. But that was Mary in all ways. And she just was so, I actually have had a lot of chance to talk to people over the last few weeks about everything that they have felt for Mary and everything she has meant to them. And what has been particularly amazing is just the reaction that people have to her in all circumstances. So we all remember her being so joyful and laughing so hard that heads would turn at restaurants. And I swear they used to sit us at the center table at restaurants because they could hear her coming in the door and they thought, she'll be the party. We can just keep this going. But of course also that she was so amazing in all of the moments that you've heard about, right? That she was so amazing when you were talking about something that's hard to talk about because she was so ready to join you. She was so happy to be able to talk about something that felt like it was a connection between people. And that came through in everything that she did. To the point, we've heard this from a few people, that she could make friends with anybody. I remember her going through, we were buying booze in Florida to go and have a party later, and she made friends with the person behind the counter. We started talking about how we're going to hang little mini booze bottles on the Christmas tree and what a great idea that was. And then they started talking about childhood memories together, and I thought, we are never going to get out of this store. What have we gotten ourselves into? So a few things that I want to recount on behalf of the family, because we've been talking about it, which is, hold on, I have my cards. Things that Mary has as hobbies. Okay, here we go. So first of all, as we heard, swearing is Mary's #1 hobby, followed closely by road rage. She was very good and she put those together beautifully. She was also incredibly good and very opinionated at naming other people's children. So she would hear that a child was going to be born and she would be all over it and already advocating for the ideas of what that child's name should be from day one. So you always knew her opinion. She was incredible at treasure hunting at thrift stores. She could find the most incredible things that she would come back with. And I think, where does this come from? This is not a thrift store item, but she could find anything, anytime. She would say, oh yeah, we can find that. Don't worry about it. I don't think Casey had bought half the stuff in her house. I think she's thrifted almost all of it. She was very skilled at the Zillow deep dive. She loved looking at real estate. And anytime you were looking, she was happy to find 50 places for you to look at and consider. So Casey and I have had to turn down probably 3,000 houses that we thought were lovely, but we didn't actually want right now. She loved terrible reality television all the way to the end. Sitting with her in the last several months was the worst when she had the TV on. It was terrible drama shows and reality television and people fighting with each other. So that was bad, but we finally convinced her to go onto the Home Hunting Network, and then she was all good. Everyone was on the same page, so we were fine. She also loved terrible romance novels, including the self-published romance novels, which is really the bottom of the barrel. So she ran out all the good ones and she started scraping. As we all heard, she loved speeding, but more than that, she loved getting out of speeding tickets. It was a gift that she could be pulled over and radiate charm, and somehow she could get out the other side amazingly well. She loved playing games with small children, but never letting them win. That was very important. She was so competitive that she would beat kids at anything without hesitation. And more than anything, she loved impromptu dance parties. I can still remember Mary pulling out moves that I was deeply embarrassed about, but she had no shame. In the middle of the living room, just going for it, and I was like, I don't feel that comfortable with this, but you're doing great, so just keep it going. I think the thing that I've also felt more than anything in all of this is that we all know in this room that Mary and Rich were truly an incredible match. That for all that Mary was wild and chaos and energy and strong opinions, Rich was the balancing force who would help cool her down, who would help be the wiser mind in the background when she was feeling particularly feisty, but simultaneously just encouraged her mischief in every possible way and gave her as much leeway as was reasonable, right? Let her rein in a little bit, but really, just they both loved life so much. And I think it's worthy of celebrating that relationship because it was one of the most amazing I've ever seen. And I feel so lucky to have married Casey and to be part of this family, to see this and to be around it. So that is very worth saying. The last thing that I want to say, and I think everyone here has experienced this, is that Mary is particularly special because when we lose someone, we lose them, which is sad, but we also lose the way that they make us feel. And as a very uptight, waspy guy, I can tell you that Mary brought out all the most mischievous and fun and energetic parts of me, and I think that's true for so many people in this room. There are so many people here who feel like they are contained in one way or another, but when they were with Mary, they could be a fuller version of themselves. They could let it all out in this way that was truly miraculous. And I think as I look around, that's what I see, is memories of the impact that Mary has had on so many people here. So with that, I would like to just encourage you to look around at all of the wonderful people here. We will keep things open at least another hour. I think we can extend. We have tons of food. We have all of these wonderful people. I hope you lean on each other and just have a great time. Continue to tell amazing stories. There is certainly no shortage. Mary was many things. She was infuriating and hilarious and wonderful, but she was never boring. So hopefully you can continue to share these wonderful stories of Mary as you go. Thank you all. Please enjoy. We're good. Sorry, real quick, sorry. Very quick note, if you see the flowers in the vases and you go to take one of these,